fucking whore. He's worth the deuce.
Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to the channel. So I've been noticing Geddy Lee has put out a new book called The Big Beautiful Book of Bass, and it seems very interesting and a very cool concept and idea. And Geddy, when he was being interviewed on one of the radio stations, it's on YouTube, but he talks about how during his career he never really collected basses because to him they were his tools. And now, being a very wealthy guy, he likes his wine, he collected various different things, and he got into bass collecting. And, you know, he looks at it like pieces of art. And I can totally relate to both facets of what he's talking about. In fact, I definitely relate far more to the player. However, there are some instruments that I've got where I won't change anything on the instrument because I'm like, this is the instrument, this is what it is. So like I have, and it's funny because the price doesn't matter. I have a Dan Electro. It might have cost me $250, but it's exactly the way that Dan Electros came and the way Jimmy Page played it. So I'm not going to touch it. It's like, I'm not going to do anything to make it play nicer. I don't care. I keep it in open G. I keep it set up as best I can, but that instrument is going to stay the way it is. Mainly because it's not like an instrument that I have because I love it. It's an instrument I have because I look at it as like a piece of history, and it's something you can buy for, you know, under $500. And it's great for that. But for the most part, like everybody knows, like I have my Strats. Now, two of them I bought brand new. And the moment I got them, I took them to a guy in the Valley of Los Angeles and had the frets taken out, put stainless steel frets in. I had the pickups that I wanted, new pick guards, but I basically made that guitar playable for me as a working instrument. Do I care that I'm ruining the value of the instrument as an original piece? I don't care. Otherwise, the instrument in its original state is worthless to me. And that's just a concept that I have about it, because I look at these as tools, and it's like, if I can't use the tool to the best of how I want to use it, I'll modify it or not have it. So in the past, I've had Les Pauls. I've had a Les Paul 58 Cloud 9 series. Beautiful playing Les Paul. Beautiful. I just would never play it. I wasn't going to ever do anything to me. To me, it's a 58 historic. It's meant to be looked at as a piece of art. And I was like, you know, you could take it out and play a gig with it. But otherwise, I'm just like, it's not a comfortable guitar for me to play. It doesn't have the appointments that I necessarily, other than the fat neck, that I would use. So I just don't see a need to keep it. But I see a lot of people on YouTube talking, and you know, one of the issues they'll deal with, like buying a Les Paul, and they'll be like, how can I improve sustain? If you think that a Tone Pros is going to improve the sustain on your Les Paul, it's not. If you think that switching to an aluminum, a titanium, or anything like that is going to change any sustain, it will not. What you call sustain and what sustain is two different things. If we're talking about the string ringing, vibrating, for as long as you can make it vibrate, well, the string is going to vibrate as much as it can vibrate, and then anything that absorbs the vibration is going to pull away from that vibration and cause less sustain. Unfortunately, that means if you have something really hard and solid and it's making the body vibrate, you're feeling that body vibrate and you love the way it feels, that vibration is in fact decreasing sustain. But our minds, we feel like that is increasing sustain because we feel it's sustaining in the body. But that's really has nothing to do with what's coming out of your amplifier. I just want to make that comment because I saw somebody making a comment about where he wanted to locate, if he was going to put the bridge, the tailpiece low for high angle, or, you know, if you put it low, usually what they do is they wrap the strings around like Zakk Wylde will go around the top and then higher, because you don't want a really harsh string angle. You'll have, it's not great. It's also not great on the string, but you want it to be, you know, at a decent angle, enough to cause tension. For the most part, it doesn't really matter. It's all preference. It's whatever you want. There's no right or wrong. But for me, you know, I'm like, when I bought, like, I've shown my Mexican Strat that I bought on Craigslist for $300, and when I completely took it apart, it ended up costing me like $60 because I sold everything, the neck, the parts, and then I put a Warmouth neck on it. I bought a loaded pick guard that I wanted, and I made that thing a monster. I mean, it plays better than I would put it up against any custom shop. For me, it's like a far superior instrument. It's got the noise canceling area pickups. It just plays great. But I look at the instrument as a tool to do what I want it to do, not so much as a piece of art to look at. Now, I have a G&L ASAT, and I just Classic S, and I also have a G&L Kiloton 5, which I just got. Now, these are all original, and they play beautiful out of the gate. The guitar came with stainless steel frets because I ordered it that way. I ordered it basically for all my specs, except I asked for different pickups, and in fact, they put the regular G&L pickups in it, and I love them, and so I haven't changed them. But also, it's just a beautiful instrument as it is. Would I ever change anything? Never say never. But I do look at it as like it's a beautiful piece of art in itself. As the guitar it's a gorgeous guitar. Now the Kiloton 5 also is a gorgeous bass, and so I would probably try to keep that original. If something comes down the road where I feel like I need to upgrade it, I would, because again, the instrument to me, for me to have a collection that's not going to get used, doesn't really jibe well with me. Now, amplifiers are a different story. As you can see, I've got quite a few here, and I'm totally not even that big of a fan of Marshalls. However, with the right pedals, these two sound great. The dual rectifier is something I've used for a long time. The crank, I think, is really nice. I just haven't had the opportunity to go out and use them a lot. So, but also I'm not going to mod them. I'm not really. The only thing I've ever modded, well, I modded my Hot Rod Deluxe right here. Boom. I've modded that with audio pots instead of linear pots, and it's been retubed. And then the dual rectifier, just the effects loop has been changed to make it workable. But basically, I play, you know, I'm a working man's type of guy. I like the utilitarian instruments and the utilitarian amplifiers. And, I mean, that's why I like Glocks. I mean, I'm a utilitarian guy. So I like the whole Strat thing where it's like I can go buy a Strat, a cheap Strat for, like I said, I paid $300. I think I sold the neck for $140, and the pickups and everything in the pick guard for $100. So yeah, that's where the 60 was what I ended up into it for. And now I can go put a neck on it that I want. Unlike Gibson, where it's like if you want that big fat baseball neck, you're paying a lot of money because you're either getting a 58, 57, 56, or a 54. 52 maybe if they make those. I don't think they make them anymore. But anyways, you're getting an expensive instrument to get a fat neck. There's no way you can just take it off and reset the neck. I mean, that's not what people are doing. So in that respect, that's why I love the Fenders, because the Fender style. And, you know, I don't know if Fender's the best at making the Fender. They created it. Well, Leo created it, but he also did Music Man, and I think the Stingray bass is probably... Actually, now I think it's the Sterling bass is probably the best bass on the market. And the Sterling Classic is my favorite of all time. But I think the Music Man makes great instruments. I think G&L makes great instruments. I mean, John Suhr makes great instruments. There's a lot of people out there making beautiful instruments. And you should play something that fits what you like, where it's got everything you need. And if something is out there that, if nobody out there is making something that you need, go to Warmoth Parts, put it together yourself. But there's also a lot of Gibson makers, either Collings making guitars, LSLs making guitars. There's a lot of nice guitars out there. We're in a great time for getting an instrument that you could use and play. And, you know, I just think if you're extremely wealthy and you want to start collecting, or if you're not that wealthy and you just want to start collecting because you think they're beautiful, I would say then collect. But otherwise, you should, you know, focus on what you're going to play, what you can use. You know, like if you have a Les Paul or you have two Les Pauls, do you need a third? I mean, if it's going to be a different kind of pickup, like if you're going to play like a P90 pickup, then this makes sense. This is something where you're like, all right, well, I could use this for this, and then this is that sound. But if they're all the same, and of course I'm one to talk. I have the same pickups in 3 of my Strats, but really that has to do with more like the feel and what I use it for. One is more like a heavier rock guitar feel, and the other one has much more of like a blues feel for me, much more of like a classic feel. So to me, it's all about the feel, what the gig is. So if I'm going to go out and do a gig and I'm going to play a bunch of classic rock, I would bring a different instrument as opposed to if it was a heavier gig. But I want that same tone, but I do want the guitar to feel a little bit more modern in my hand. So that's why I have the 2 different guitars, or 3 different, that have the same pickups. One of them actually is just a beater guitar. It cost me $200. It was made in Korea. It's a beautiful guitar. It's a prototype for Gary Kramer, and it's just great. And so I put those pickups in it, so if I needed to go somewhere and I had to leave a guitar in the car and I really didn't care about it, but I wanted that sound, I can bring that guitar and not sweat it. A friend of mine calls me up every other day. Look at this bass. Look at this guitar. Look at this. And I'm like, well, what do you need it for? And he will comment to me and be like, wow, you bought something. And I'm like, yeah, but like when I bought it, I told you what it was for and what I was going to use it for. So recently, I purchased used, I think it was like $130, a Fender Bronco bass amp. And the reason why I got it was because I've done like 1 or 2 bass things on this show here. And I've done it right into my Fender Mustang, and it sounds like shit. So the other day I was like, I wonder if there's a Fender model that was a bass version of this that I could use the same software and blah, blah, blah. And I found it. And then I found one used, and I got it at a price that was insane. So I'm going to use it for my channel. So that to me is something that has purpose. He doesn't see that. He just hears that I got something. And he's like, oh, really? Well, maybe I'm going to go get it. And then, of course, he runs to the store and sees a bass and buys it. And I'm like, what are you buying another bass for? He's like, it's just a great price and, you know, not really an expensive instrument. I think it was really inexpensive, but he just likes to buy it, have it, and then turns around and sells it. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, I used to have quite a collection. Right now, my collection is basically what you see against here. What you're seeing over here is basically all I got. I mean, in the other room, I have a Fernandez bass on a guitar stand in my room. I'm just warming up for that gig I got, and I just got to go over a couple of things. And I also have my Dan Electro in there. Everything else is here. I have a Strat here. And this is what I used in the intro, and it's basically a Warmoth neck. I've shown this many times. It's just all piece. It's a parts caster. I put the Fender logo on it, I had it lasered on. I think it looks cool. I mean, it's a Fender design. This is a Strat. I mean, so to me, it's like when someone asked me once, why don't you put your own name on it? It's like, why? I didn't design this. This is Fender. I'm just putting the parts together. It's like if you had a parts car or something and you went to the junkyard and you found a perfect body of a 69 Thunderbird, and then you put the whole thing together. You're going to put your name on it as saying it's not a Thunderbird. It's a Thunderbird. Well, that's a Strat. So anyways, I've been working on a lot of bass stuff. I've been really enjoying playing the bass on this stuff. I thought it was going to be a lot more slapping than it is, and I'm not the best slapper in the world, but I can get by. But it wasn't as much slapping as I thought, but there's a lot of great technique there. And so we're playing songs like Street Life by the Crusaders, and I just was turned on to this song by Gene Carn called Don't Let It Go to Your Head, which is great. And if you're into 90s rap at all, there's a great version by Brand Nubian where they rap and then they just use the chorus, Don't Let It Go to Your Head. It's so great. But I've really been enjoying playing the bass and getting back into that. It's a stricter discipline than guitar, because in guitar, you know, you're playing, and I've seen a lot of people play, and so many great players out there, and so many guys who and then other guys out there who aren't so great who want to learn, and that's great. I mean, that's like part of the whole trick. It's not about, you know, if you're moving and you're not sterile and you're trying to get better and you're reaching for that, that's all you can ask for. But it's like, you know, when you're playing bass and you're forced to discipline on that downbeat, you have to learn to count, and you can hear it. It will make you a better guitar player. There's a discipline to bass that I feel is important that a lot of beginner to intermediate guitar players do not see or get. So just something to think about. So if you're out there and you're buying and you're going to the store and you see something on sale, or you're like, I want to get a new instrument, pick up a bass if you play guitar, and give yourself some new aspect of understanding the instrument. Also, the cool thing about it is you get to learn stuff, like when you get to hear songs and, you know, you think you know how the chords go, and all of a sudden the bass is playing cross against it. You know, where the guitar might be playing an A to a B, but the bass is playing F sharp to G sharp, and that's like some really cool things. Basically making the chord minor sevens. But I don't want to get technical. Anyways, friend of mine whose son I teach drums gave me this shirt yesterday, and I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. As always, very good.